Hello, everyone. Welcome to Miami Beach Urban Studios. Today is the first day of FIU PA Week, and I am happy to present Lorna Ruth Galloway as the MBUS Live Art Talk participant today. My name is Colette Mello. Thank you all for joining us this evening. FIU Miami Beach Urban Studios, known as MBUS, is an incubator for communication, architecture, and the arts, and a collider for people, design, and technology. I'd like to thank Miami Beach Department of Tourism and Office of Cultural Affairs for sponsoring these art talks. Lorna Ruth Galloway is a Miami-based artist who uses appropriation, gaming culture, and the American road trip as a reference point in her work. Lorna draws upon her experience of growing up blocks away from US 1 and witnessing the ever-changing tropical urban environment of Miami. The aesthetics of the American road trip have been an integral part of Lorna's visual worldview. Works in photo-based printmaking techniques, screen printing, polaroid transfers, video, and large tiled wheat paste installations explore space, time, nostalgia, and the mediated experience. In 2016, Lorna exhibited deadpan realities here at Miami Beach Urban Studios, and currently she has a pop-up exhibition in the MBUS space titled Swampy Wheat Paste. Lorna is an art educator at Broward College and Piedmont College, and is a FIU MFA graduate. Before I hand it over to Lorna, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that if you have comments or questions, to make them through the chat function, and I will try to get to them throughout our conversation. Hi, Lorna. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much, Colette. There are entirely too many people here.
Yeah, it's a nice crowd. I think everybody's here celebrating PA Week. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. So I'm going to hand over the screen to you, Lorna, so you can start your presentation.
Perfect. Let's see. So let me get my.
And I'll just remind everybody, if you have any comments, please put them through our chat function, and we will get to them throughout the conversation.
Okay, let me start my slideshow. So it looks like I have a lot of slides because I was trying to think. The more I show, maybe the less I'd have to talk, but I don't think I'm getting away with it. So I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you, Colette, for inviting me, and for you and Ray's work organizing and maintaining this programming. Even now, I think you guys are doing a beautiful job.
Thank you.
I think
we started this in I think John and I started this in April, these type of programming, right after the craziness that started in March. So
yeah, I think it's so important, and I love that FIU is holding space for stuff like this and making it free, available to the public with the help of the City of Miami Beach. It's really, really special.
Thank you. So do you mind telling us where you are right now? Are you in your studio or at your house?
I'm at home.
Okay. Is your home your studio right now during the pandemic?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my classroom. It's everything. So.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, no, I'm at home. We were gonna play a game. Anytime you see the cat walk in front of my screen, take a drink. So she's sleeping right now.
Well, if you hear the cat meow, my cat likes to meow in the middle of these, so it's
super cute. I don't know how they know. They know.
Yep.
Okay, so I know I invited a lot of my students here, and I really appreciate everyone coming. So I kind of geared this talk more for them, and for anybody who might not be familiar with my background or my work already. So first, I'd like to talk about kind of my way into the fine arts, which was, through my family and friends. My dad is the consummate photographer, and I for sure should have just given him this platform, but I waited too long, and now I have to do it. So
I love this as you have a crazy camera as a Christmas gift. I love that.
Yeah, and yeah, so my dad took this photo. I think it's 1988 because there's a baby Jackie. So I've been lucky enough to kind of have been exposed to a lot of this stuff for a long time. Okay, cursor back up. So just to share some of the artists that I was looking at kind of before I started undergrad and grad school, I'd like to, oh, hold on, let me move this down. I'd like to talk about two artists specifically. The first is the photographic artist Jeff Browse, who lives and works in New York but travels all across the United States. He is primarily an artist who works for books. He uses large format photography. This book, I brought it out. It's actually a present from my good friend Dwayne, and it has stayed with me for decades. So I thank you. So I was really interested in Jeff Brow's work and this idea of kind of Americana nostalgia, which you'll see, I think, throughout the duration of this presentation. So Jeff Brow's works, I think, in these really neurotic ways that I can definitely appreciate, where he just kind of says, like, I'm going to photograph all of X thing that I see. And so this book, the Ready Mades book, it is American Roadside Artifacts, and it is full of a lot of different types of work. Some of my favorites that I didn't include in the PowerPoint, but these, like, if you ever wondered what a class is like with me, this is it. These drive-in movie screens, for example. So it's just like this huge collection of photos taken from travel, from the road. So one of his projects, which is 26 abandoned gasoline stations, is what introduced me to the artist Ed Richey.
Wow. So his title is the same as Ed Richey, right? It's the same title. He totally appropriated. Is it the same images?
No. So his title is 26 abandoned gasoline stations.
Okay, it's a little different.
Ed Richey's was 26 gasoline stations. So Jeff Browse was making this work from the 70s, like through the 90s, where he was kind of, again, appropriating Ed Richey's work, giving himself this assignment, and then kind of adding to that conversation that Ed Richey started.
And did he make a book like Ed Richey made the book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
like
are they very similar? Okay.
Mm-hmm, yeah, super similar. And I mean, I love when artists build off of these other projects and kind of expand on them. And I hope that's what I'm able to do with some of my work. So through this project, I was introduced to Ed Richey and his series of 26 gasoline stations. And so Ed Richey is an American artist who was born in Oklahoma. He moved to LA in 1950. And I think in travel, he kind of found inspiration for his work. And a lot of his work is kind of, I'm going to say, I'm doing air quotes, like assignment based, where he'll say, like, okay, I'm going to take 26 photographs of gasoline stations. And then I know when I'm done, like that's the project. So driving back and forth from Oklahoma to LA, he gave himself this project. And this was one of his first art books that he also, I think he tried to submit it to the Library of Congress and then it was rejected because they were like, what is this? Like, I think they didn't understand the work. Because I think a lot of his work, you know, there's this sense of humor that almost borders on being glib. So ultimately, I think, you know, he went to LA for the architecture, for the car culture, and then his books were kind of born from that and evolved from his sort of perpetual motion back and forth between these different places. So then moving on to the most contemporary, I think, you know, the game Grand Theft Auto perfectly kind of embodies that attitude that Ed Richey had about the road and architecture and this kind of car culture. But I'll get back to this in a minute. I think ultimately, you know, and I'm skipping, full disclosure for my students, I'm skipping my undergrad work. If you are curious about it, we can talk about it later, or like you can check out my website. But for undergrad, I'm kind of like glossing over all of that. So I entered grad school I'm obsessively playing Grand Theft Auto 5. And it was very much just a way to procrastinate real life and avoid and shirk any responsibilities that I had. But it ended up being, I think, some of the most productive procrastination that I've done in my whole life. So I was actively playing the game before I came up with my thesis project. So I'm playing story mode. These are some of my statistics, but from 2015, where you can see like I was actively engaged in the game. And I think, you know, for anybody who's played any games, like 6 days is not a long time. Like even if you played a game on your phone, like, you know, it can kind of become this consuming thing. Okay.
This isn't in 6 days though.
No,
Okay.
it's,
Okay.
yeah, 6 days cumulatively, yeah, like,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, no.
So so I don't have a lot of background in auto grand theft. Is that the title? So I read a really quick Wikipedia that it was a pretty violent and misogynist game. And as we can see from your statistics, it was very violent. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think looking at my work, you know, okay, so it is notoriously violent, misogynistic. I think it's deliberately offensive, you know, in its treatment of race, of gender, of sexuality. I think it's impossible to kind of ignore that when you're looking at some of this work. I think, you know, in the work that I've made, I think I'm kind of can remove those representations, but you know, I feel like it wasn't really my intention to kind of try and have a conversation about that or act as like a female playing this violent game where you can only play as a man. But I think, you know, you can't ignore it. So I
Right.
feel like, yeah, I appreciate the conversations that come from that. I still definitely recognize it as like this, like you said, I think a technological milestone. So yeah, I think people can kind of interpret what they want with some of this. Okay, so, oh, I'm going to show one of my favorite projects, I think. Like I really like all of the work that comes out of people kind of using this game in a different way than it was intentionally or originally planned for. Sorry, I'm like grandma on the computer. I'm trying to share another screen. So I'll show you in a second how I use the game, which is through the cell phone camera. My cursor's disappeared. There we go. Okay. Which is through the cell phone camera in the game. So like during gameplay, I can actively take pictures. But some of my favorite projects are actually projects like this. Sorry for moving this around. Where this project is actually a mod for PC gamers. So you can see this artist, Brent Watanabe, set up a streaming deer cam, where he created this deer that would kind of auto-populate in different spaces around the game and just kind of run amok. And so he set up the website for this project like it was a National Park Service camera. And I think it's, yeah, I think this is super fun. This is one of my favorite projects. I'm gonna open it up, I'll mute myself and I'll just kind of click through it for a minute.
Okay.
I could really use a vacation.
Excuse me, sugar.
Oh, man.
So I'm gonna click through it. There might be some profanity, just I forgot to give you a warning about explicit content.
Hey, amor. Buy some things for us.
Shit!
Watch where you
Keep walking.
Fuck you, pendejo.
Oh, God!
All right, I'll stop before it gets too wild. So that's one of the projects like I really love. I really love his work. and how it kind of, yeah, uses the game in this different way. And I think it, activates kind of more than just one sense. So
And who is the artist for that?
Brent Watanabe, let me type it. I'll type it in the chat. Let's see. Oops, if I can. Might have to do an awkward. It's Brent. Maybe it's Brett. I can't spell today, but that's close enough. That'll get you there. So it's the.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. San Andreas Deer Cam. Let's see. Okay, so I use the game in a different way. I use the cell phone camera that your character is given to take photos. So as I was kind of like playing this game, procrastinating my whole life, I had the idea to, recreate Ed Richey's 26 gasoline stations, but inside the game. So your character is given a cell phone with a camera, and then there's an online platform that's very similar to Instagram, where you can take photos, you upload them to the internet, other people can see them, then you can download them. So there are a lot of people who've also worked with like creating photo essays this way that are really interesting. And you can see most people will take pictures of like their cars or people they've murdered. So it is interesting when you kind of log on and see something different. So this is the Rockstar game social club. So through photographing the landscape inside Grand Theft Auto, I realized that there was already this community that was kind of compulsively mapping this space. A lot of the game designers were appropriating things that felt, like we were talking about earlier, like nostalgic and familiar that you could kind of recognize. And so there's this whole community online that's really interested in kind of like finding these architectural structures in real life and then showing how they're represented in the game. So this is an abandoned motel that's in the Salton Sea in California that they have appropriated for the game design. And so you can see, sorry if my cursor is flailing. So you can see the real one on the left and then the one from the game on the right. So I became really kind of interested in this and following this project. And then building on that. So I set out to create 26 gasoline stations in Grand Theft Auto 5, starting with just the photographs. So these are photographs from the cell phone taken during gameplay. Instead of creating, so in my undergrad work, I was really interested in alternative kind of photographic techniques. So I was doing like 4-color screen prints, but that was something that just wasn't working for this project. And so I really wanted to kind of relinquish some of that control because I am, I think, a perfectionist in a lot of ways. And that definitely kind of paralyzes me when it comes to making things. So with this project, instead of doing a 4-color transfer or a 4-color separation, I did a single color separation. And then instead of screen printing with ink, I was screen printing with charcoal. So I think, my intentions with this were, or with these, I guess, because I did make 26. I think my intentions were to create something that was kind of confusing. Like, I think these can be images of any place during any time. Like, you have no real sense of a reality or where they are.
So Lorna, so these images that were in Grand Theft Auto 5, these images were part of Edward Richey's work or other artists, or just
No, it was
similar?
Yeah, similar, like the similar aesthetic, like, oh, okay, so Grand Theft Auto, this one, it's supposed to be in a fake LA. So
Okay.
a lot of like the aesthetics are the same. I think they, even, I mean, the mapping.
They definitely could be mistaken, yes, okay.
Mhm, yeah. So no, they were just similar, and I liked that, yeah, it's kind of this homage to a place that doesn't really exist. It could, like looking at this like I don't think you know, unless you play the game like and recognize the branding, like I don't think you would recognize these as something like that. So something else about using the charcoal, besides kind of like relinquishing some control, is yeah, questioning, I think, how they're made. Like, because they look like drawings, they don't look like photographs. I think,
And this was part of your MFA
yeah, so this is part of my
thesis program.
yeah, this is part of my thesis project. Um, and again, I liked kind of the combination of two things that didn't seem to make sense to get, well, three, I guess. Three things that didn't seem to make sense, like using video game imagery, like super technical physical process like screen printing, and then not using ink and using charcoal. So it kind of combined all of these different methods of working that are really convoluted. Yeah.
And so you had 26 in your exhibition.
Well, in the exhibition, oh, I think I included a view. Yeah, I did. I think I had 13. I'm not going to count. I had 26 in total. I think I exhibited 13. And I know, yeah, since this is geared for students, and I'll kind of reiterate some of these points at the end. Take pictures of your work. This is the only installation view I have of this exhibition, and it's shameful. And it's kind of like, you know, 5 years later, I'm over here frantically like, do you guys have pictures of this? Like, you guys remember this thing I did? Do you have pictures of this? Make sure.
Good advice. Always document.
Yeah.
Students, document your work.
Shameful. Yeah. So this is the only image that I have, which is funny. But yeah, so this is, I should have made a note of this. This is on view at the Frost Museum of Art on, you know, the FIU main campus, the Modesto Medici campus. So, and this is Ivan Santiago. I don't know if he's around, but. And then this is a project that I did with Meg, where kind of like coinciding with some of those prints, I got a chance to kind of share some of the behind the scenes work. So in this space, we were able to put up a few of the prints as well as the positives that I used to create the screens. So these are what I would have used to expose the images onto the photo emulsion in the screen. And this, I think, was really, this is one of my favorites because we had a radio in the room that was playing the radio stations from Grand Theft Auto while you were looking at the work. And I'll link my favorite Grand Theft Auto radio station in the chat, because I think that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the game, just driving around listening to the radio. And I think that's why I replay a lot of games like LA Noire. So
this was in our project room. Meg Kaplan Nosh, I think she's on today. She was the curator of this, and she and you collaborated on this exhibition. Yep.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I think it kind of helped to like demystify that process too. So it was super cool.
And what this was part of your work?
So no, after installing that exhibition, this is another bit of my advice for students. Besides like going to see work, you know, I walked out of installing and there's just these piles of pizza. And so it's like, and this was like we talked about before, this is before times when we could eat communally. Fingers
Which
crossed.
we miss doing, yes.
Yeah. So I think, you know, as a student, like, yes, of course, see as much work as you can, but also take advantage of things like this. Like, so, even living the adjunct life, like these free meals are really important. So this was a treat.
We used to do a lot of that at MBUS, but
I know.
yeah. Hopefully once again, we'll do that some other time. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a project that was curated by Brittany. And if I start,
I remember this. Yep.
If I start to read, just tell me to speed it up. So it's a rude awakening after you graduate and you no longer have kind of access to these facilities. to a studio space. So this was the first time, and this was an exhibition with two of my great best friends. And I'm so rude, I didn't include pictures of their work, but they're here. Let's see, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay, so Rude Awakening, graduating, no longer have access to studio space or any facilities. So I was trying to think of a different way of working, and I still was really invested in kind of like using a screen-based process, but making something like very specific for a space. So this was at the Bakehouse Complex, and I decided that I would try working on wheat pastes. So this is my first time working on wheat paste because I went to wheat paste because I think I have a picture, because the detail, like this is a halftone, so this is like the same kind of process I would use for the screen printing, but instead of printing it on a positive and making like an emulsion of it, like I just printed it straight on copy paper, pasted it to the wall, because I needed to do something that was economical, something that I didn't need a lot of space at home to do. And this is another example of document your work. This is, I think I only I have like 5 of the same picture, and that's it.
I think I might have some images of this.
Yeah.
I remember seeing, this was at the Bakehouse. This is when FIU had a studio on the 2nd floor at the Bakehouse. Yeah. And I think it was one of the first exhibitions that we had there. And Brittany was your curator, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Brittany was the curator. I feel like Cole had an excellent exhibition here too. This space was super fun. So that's going to be my other point. Like, say yes. Like, if people ask you to participate, just say yes, and then the work will happen.
That's good advice. I always say that too. And then I figure it out later. Like, okay, just said yes. Now I got to figure out what I'm doing or how I'm going to do it.
That's pretty much all of these projects. So I'm gonna click through this pretty quickly. This was a project that I did with my friend Sarah Henderson, and this was for a pop-up during Art Basel in 2017, where again we wanted to do a wheat paste, but we wanted to make it kind of something that people could interact with more. So the space is the historic post office building in downtown Miami, and this is another great example. I stole these pictures from the internet of me not appropriately documenting my work. But so this building kind of had been dysfunctional for a while. They wanted to activate the space for Art Basel. So this Sarah. So we did a wheat paste, and then she actually had postcards made of some of our photographs, and we invited people to kind of fill out a postcard, and then as part of the exhibition we would mail them. So we got, like, you know, more than 100 postcards that were sent out kind of all over the United States, all over the world. And I think this was a really fun project, and a kind of way to make it more interactive, which is something that I think I'd like to figure out doing, or figure out how to do more of. Okay, so I know I mentioned Cole before. So our great friend Cole, who's also an FIU alum, moved to South Carolina, and he's been working as a co-curator. He's like the, how do you say? There's a way to say it. He does everything here. So he's working at the Sumter County Gallery of Art. And he invited me to participate in an exhibition then, and he actually had some other great advice, which is like, you know, recognize that a lot of your opportunities come from these relationships that you build. So, you know, take the time to do that. So he invited me to Sumter to work on this exhibition. And in this space, I did these wheat pastes in the center. And then Cole kind of finished installing everything. And so I think this was really fun. And he was really easy to work with. I think I felt completely supported by all of my friends in these endeavors. So it's a really beautiful space. And he's done a lot of really beautiful, beautiful projects there. So thank you, Cole.
Well, Cole is actually going to be on one of our art talks in the near future. So
Yeah, we're putting it on the spot. He better still be here. Yeah, and this was also one of the first times that I showed this video project, also taken from Grand Theft Auto, where I guess I was kind of inspired by the artist Watanabe, but also this is another, I should have added the title. This is another book by Ed Richey where it's 9 swimming pools. Sometimes it's 9 swimming pools in a broken glass. So this is kind of an unfinished project that's in limbo, but I've wanted to recreate this project again inside the game. And I'm gonna click away so I can show you part of the video.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
First of all, I have a couple comments. One, welcome back to your alma mater. Thank you for participating in PAW.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.
And then we have a question about the wheat paste. Lorna, can you explain about wheat paste? When I hear about wheat paste, I think of a book arts and fine binding and paste papers.
Oh, my associations with it are definitely, oops. I'll go back to the PowerPoint for a minute. My associations with it are definitely like inexpensive street art, kind of like, you know, postering things, like advertisements, like things you'd see under 95 for like concerts, or like, you know, does that make sense? Or like the Shepherd Ferry Obey stuff, where it's just kind of like cheap, it's quick. I think that's also why I gravitated towards it, because you just make the glue with flour and water and then print up some 5-cent copies and you have your work. So you can make all.
Can I share a story about what you did at the bakehouse?
Yeah.
The bakehouse, when Lorna did the bakehouse, she did the wheat paste and they were beautiful and I loved it. But then we had another exhibition and she couldn't take down the wheat paste. And she had to, if I remember correctly, you had to do like, I don't know how many coats of paint to cover it. It was a lot. I remember it turned into a really big deal. So just know what you're working with, I guess would be the advice.
So absolutely. So since this was my first project, I was super ignorant. I didn't understand. And yeah, I tried. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up then.
No. This is, I mean, it really happened. So yeah, like I couldn't get it off the wall. This was on drywall. And so I just painted over it because I was just like, I'm done. But also I forgot to, like, so because it's flour and water, bugs were eating it. And this was up for, I think, like 3 or 4 months. And so after, at the end of the exhibition, you came in and there's just like all of this white space where bugs had just like eaten all the paper. So not archival, but fun. So this was on a plaster wall. This was much easier. I've grown a lot since then. This was much easier to clean up. Because who knew? You just need soap and water. And then Cole cleaned these up. Sorry, Cole. Thank you. So what a mess. Yeah. But no. So yeah, those were my associations with the wheat paste process before, just kind of like quick and dirty street art stuff, like not something that's meant to really withstand the test of time. So
how do you talk? So your work deals a lot with appropriation. How do you feel about people appropriating your work? Are you okay with that?
yeah, sure. I think I don't mind. I feel like no, for sure, if I could just make work and no one could ever see it, I would, you know? So like, give it away. I think that seeing how it evolves depending on someone's kind of different perspective, I really love that. And I love kind of building on these things and kind of that discourse.
Because
So.
there's also legalities with it, right? Like if you think of, is it Prince who appropriates work and
Richey
coon.
prints with the
Yep. Yeah.
Instagram photos.
And I mean, you could be
Yeah.
sued, but you
Well,
haven't been, but but it
right.
could happen. Right.
'Cause I feel like I definitely don't like I'm not
Right.
interested in the commodification of work in that way.
Right.
Let me show you. I'm checking our time. I'll show you. I think I'm almost done. I think I have the MBUS stuff at the end. I will share part of this movie.
I really like the pools. Well, of course, I like, again, I mean, I know you're doing the car culture and now swimming pools, you think of Florida. I know this is LA, but again, it has that reference to Miami. Everybody has a pool in their yard almost, you know?
Yeah, and I think same with like the architectural styles and like
Mhm.
the time in which they were kind of developed. Oops. Okay, let me rewind. Okay, so this is an example of one of the pool videos where I spend the length of a whole day inside the game, standing in front of a pool, videotaping it. And I'm just going to kind of click through this pretty quickly. So the equivalent of a day in the game is roughly like an hour. So this was a project that I kind of stalled out on. Like I've done a few. I don't know where it should exist or how it should live, but I do enjoy these. So the last section of work is the pop-up project that I have right now at the FIU Miami Beach Urban Studios Design Gallery, and I have to say, I hoodwinked Jose into helping me install this project. So Jose, thank you so much. So this was a project that I did to coincide with PAW Week and this talk, where again, it's the wheat pastes, but instead of being physically installed in the space, because we didn't want to have to clean up any work, I did the wheat paste on sheets of plywood and then hung them. So this is the view from the doors. And these are some of them. And so, okay, also I should have added this note too. The photographs were taken primarily along, like the long ones on either side of the wall, were taken on Loop Road, which is pretty close to the FIU main campus if you just head west on Southwest 8th on 41. And
Comment, it says escapism seems to be at the root of the work, escaping to the road or virtual spaces. My question is, what has been your latest escape or obsession?
I'm gonna have to, let's see, who asked this question? No, I'm just kidding. That's a great question. I think it's still the same. I think I spent a lot of 2020 on the road.
I was going to ask you about road trips. Have you done any road trips?
Yeah, so I have, and I'll share. Yeah, I've done a lot over the last year. So escapism. I mean, still, playing games, actively escaping. What else? Reading. I don't know if Bill McGuire's here, but I also, so hold on, I have this book list from Bill McGuire that he gave me. Like,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So
I still have it.
Yeah, I still have it. That's another
That's
thing.
wonderful.
Kind of powering through last year. It's only 5 years later I'm getting to it, but I think it's
Well, when you're in grad school, there's not a lot of time to read just for leisure. You're reading, other things. Yeah.
I for sure felt like I've been in constant motion since then. And when I was asked to do this, like it was, I think, a really nice a really nice time to reflect, because then looking at all of this stuff, I was like, oh, like I have been making work, and like let me share the other screen. I think I've thought about before, like, you know, since I am an educator, my curriculum is always going to come first, like before I think any personal kind of artistic practice. And
So this work that you have at MBUS right now reminds me of Catherine Opie's work. I think it's something that she did on the road, and she's known for doing a lot of work on the road, documenting, I think probably mostly California landscape, I think. I'm not sure, but I know that's where she is.
yeah, I think I do have, oops, I do have an article open. Let me shrink grandma on the computer, go back to the other screen. Yeah, so Catherine Opie, I think, you know, she's from, I opened this earlier because we were having this conversation. So she's, yeah, from the Midwest, and this project was specifically about the swamps, where you made the association of her kind of documenting and revisiting these swamps to some of my work. And I'd say, like, where she focuses primarily on like a natural landscape or like portraiture, I definitely focus on vernacular architecture, and I'll show you. Sorry, awkwardly cooking. Let me show you. We're going to the deep dives now. This is personal. So I think my work kind of, like, I definitely revisit places. And when I talk about vernacular architecture, I'm talking about somewhere that's like not monumental, like it's functional. It's often kind of overlooked. So this is on the way to Sumter. And you can see I drove through here over the course of a couple years. And I just kind of watched this one sign deteriorate. But I love Catherine Opie's work, and I love her. God, there's an R21 about her project with the Great Lakes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is,
I'll have to check that out.
yeah, I think it's really fun. The road trip. So last year was the year of, I think, epic road trips. I'm gonna share something else. Let's see. So how have I been escaping? It's gonna be so obvious. I've been escaping by planning these fantasy trips on Google Maps. So
Really?
yeah, so it started, so last year I started and ended the year with 2 crazy road trips. The last one we're not going to talk about. We're going to pretend it didn't happen. But for my birthday, for example, like I went to New Orleans with my friend Jessie, and we would just like compulsively plan all of these things. So this was one of the first maps that I made. Or no, I lied. Hold on. Let me show you the first map I made. The first map I made was for a road trip in Colorado with my little sister Jackie. And so this kind of, like, I think gave me the ideas, but then I set them aside for a while. So after this, during the pandemic times, I started compulsively mapping all of these other things. One being all of the free campsites in Florida. Another being like all of these fantasy places that I'd like to visit, starting with the United States, organized into region. But this one I got overwhelmed with this.
Those look good.
Yeah.
They're on my list.
I know. I think
some of them are on my list.
we should, yeah, when we're allowed out. I think these are super cool. The last, I'm going to say, and don't take offense to this, the last successful road trip I went on, I'm going to go back to the photos. The last successful road trip I went on was to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park with Jessie, where she drove from Chicago and I drove from South Florida, and we met in Tennessee, and then we hiked to my great grandmother's grave, which is inside the national park, and it's only accessible by foot. So this was kind of just like something we wanted to do. Let me show you.
Had you been there before?
No, we'd attempted to go there before. but the trail, like there are a few different trails that you could take to get there, and they were just like all overgrown, and we had to call it. So
Wow.
yeah. So this time, this was our mission. Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Other road trips, yeah. So New Orleans, Chicago, South Carolina forever.
Wow, you did do a lot of road trips. I guess the pandemic is conducive to traveling by car.
Yeah, and I think
I think I did one road trip. Yeah.
yeah, I think you went to somewhere in
North
North.
Carolina. Yeah. We took a road trip. So I have a couple questions for you. We've got a few comments. Let's see.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stop my share. And
Okay.
we'll
Thank you. That was wonderful.
No,
That was
you're welcome.
really
Thank you.
great.
I feel like
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Where do you find your inspiration for your travel destination location art?
oh that so a lot of it's serendipitous. Um I think with a lot of the travel that I do, it's not necessarily for art, but it happens kind of along the way, if that makes sense. Um And then I also, yeah, I have no regrets stopping or turning around. U-turns.
Good. Good. I like that.
Yeah.
How have you found a balance in being an educator and artist? That's a good question.
No.
But aren't they go hand in hand? Don't they go, or no, you don't, are they two separate things?
So Cole, who I still here, he draws a lot of similarities, I think, between what I teach in like drawing and my personal practice. Um, I I feel like they go hand in hand, and I'm gonna say because I'm constantly learning from my students. Like I feel like every day I log on, I learn something new from them. And I appreciate that, like how they kind of inform how I see things. Or
Oh, that's nice. So it's a give and take. So that's wonderful. Let's see. Lorna, are your loop road photos manipulated more than in the printing process? Are they superimposed or any other kind of changes to the image?
so that's a great question, because they're actually they're cell phone photos, which I don't know if I can't remember. Bill McGuire said it. I don't know who said it initially. Whatever, the best camera you have is the one that you have on you. So I've kind of defaulted to using my cell phone. So those are cell phone photos that were taken, and similarly to the work that I did for the screen prints, like I turn it to grayscale and then I turn it to a bitmap, and then that's it. And then I print them at the size that I need them. So like I think one of the walls has one that's like 48 inches or 30, it's 32 inches by like 240 inches. And so I just took the image, made it that size. Whatever happens, happens. So when you look at it up close, like it does look distorted and crazed, and like there's a lack of information because it is just, yeah, some 72 DPI picture from my phone. So
Who said that? You think it was,
no, I've heard Bill McGuire say it. I'm not sure who said it, if he's paraphrasing someone else. But
right.
yeah.
Let's see. This is a beautiful, meaningful trip. I had no idea there were cemeteries in the Smoky Mountains. Yeah, either did I. And do you want to share how so it was a private plot and then somehow it got assimilated into the public park, or?
Yeah, when the land was purchased, I think Jessie might know more about this than me because she's been the superior researcher. But it was like a lot of family-owned land was purchased for the national park, and I think like starting in 34, maybe 1934, 1935. And so there are cemeteries everywhere in the Smoky Mountain National Parks. Smoky Mountain National Park.
What is your least favorite kind of landscape? South Florida location? Question mark.
No, I love South Florida. I love all of Florida. My least favorite landscape. That's I have to think about that. Yeah, I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Can
Then
I,
you must not have one. If you can't think off the top of your.
I don't, there's nothing that strikes me like that offends me so much to my core that I would be like, I hate it. But maybe I can defer to some of my friends. Or
Okay.
friends and family. Can you guys think of your?
And then I have, we have a comment. I love the pool series. It reminds me a lot of David Cockney. Your work really embraces the nostalgia and minimalist architecture that his work does too.
It's beautiful.
That's-
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I love hockey, and I think there's this one piece that I always try and see at the Art Institute in Chicago. It's one of my favorites.
So we're almost out of time, and I just wanted to thank you again for doing this great presentation. I really enjoyed hearing you talk about your work. And do you have, since we have a lot of students, do you have and I know you were giving out little tidbits of wisdom to them throughout your presentation. Is there any other advice you want to give to our students?
I'm going to emphasize again, yeah, like a lot of the opportunities that I've been lucky enough to have from the relationships that I've made in this community. So that's really, I think, really important. And I will say I have made lifelong friends from school, Leandra. So I think, yeah, it's a really beautiful community, and to kind of embrace that and maintain it, even though it is hard, hard work. Yeah, you can't change it for anything.
So wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite everyone to unmute if you'd like to just say hi and give Lorna some virtual applause. Let me go ahead and unmute.
All of your faces.
That was great professor.
Lorna, you sold yourself short. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you are very amazing. I love your artwork.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you. Oh, Sarah. Thank you.
Yay.
Again, thank you all for joining us for our PAW Week. We're having alumna all week on different events, and so this was one of the first ones. So it was a pleasure, Lorna. Even though I know your work, it was great to hear you talk about it and learn more about it. And I hope that you all join us again next week. So have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lorna.
Bye. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
Have a good night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.